Hello everyone, welcome to this video where we're going to discuss 30 beta leftovers in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. If you do enjoy the video, please do consider leaving a like and also do subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Okay, let's go on with the video. Okay, our first stop off today is at this place, which is in Los Santos. And as you can see, it's, well, a bit of an empty space really. You can see a sign out front which says like Starballs Demolition or something similar. Essentially, a building was here, but it has been demolished. So, how does this relate to pre-release stuff, and beta leftovers? Well, the YouTuber Vadim M actually looked up the names of some of the textures that are used to create this area of the map. And it had the phrase, or the word, should I say, buyable in them. So, it's alleged that you would have been able to essentially buy a piece of land in this game and create your own asset. Now, that feature ended up being scrapped, so we have certain areas of the map like this that don't really end up serving a purpose. It's just an empty space. And obviously you can buy assets in the game, but it ended up being very similar to how it was in Vice City. You essentially buy existing businesses and you take them over. So yeah, the idea of you building and developing your own asset was scrapped in San Andreas, but it was brought back in Vice City Stories with the Empires feature. And it's not just that one spot in the map which is like this. So this is another spot that Vadim M again, and I will link to his video in the description, so if you want to go and see the full video, please do go and watch that. But yeah, so again, if we look at the texture names for this space on the map, it actually has the name Purchase in it, although it's misspelled as Purchase. It's missing the R essentially, but yeah, this space here, this piece of wasteland, which is very rectangular, this was allegedly going to be another area where you could develop your own asset. And lastly, we have this area in San Fierro. Now, unfortunately, we can't really get any clues from any of the texture names for this place, but I'm mentioning it because it is quite similar to the first two areas we discussed, especially the first one. So again, it's just an area of land really with nothing built on it. There's a fence all around, so you can't easily get in, although obviously you could use like a helicopter or like I'm doing the jetpack here. And yeah, it does say development opportunity outside as well on the signs. So yeah, again, it's alleged that this would have been another one of those areas in the map that you could have built your own asset on if that feature had been finished. Okay, on to the next one. So for this, we need to go into the driving school. And if you look at the pictures on the wall there are of some cars in the game, but actually they are pre-release renders of some of the cars, which of course found their way into the final game. So here's the Monster, which I think looks pretty similar to how it does on the final game, and you will find that. So some cars will exhibit differences, whereas other cars won't have changed that much over the course of development. But yeah, but there are some which do exhibit differences, and this is one of them, which is the Windsor. So if you look at the headlights here, they are totally different. And over here is the Feltzer. Now, it still has Vice City wheels in the picture, and it's also in a white colour scheme, which I believe was restricted to the final game in the full version of GTA San Andreas. And here we go, we have the Hustler as well. So again, it has those Vice City wheels, which were simply just a leftover. They were probably used during development, but yeah, they don't actually show up on any of the cars in game. Okay, we're in CJ's house now. And one thing you'll probably notice around CJ's house is that there are quite a few pictures on the wall, but one of them is of interest to us in this video, and it's this one here. It's a picture of Sweet and Kendal. Of course, they are your family members. And while Sweet looks pretty similar, it's Kendal that looks totally different. So you can see there, I've put a picture up of the final version of Kendal, which appears in the game. And yeah, as you can see just by looking, the version of Kendal in the picture looks nothing like how she looks in the final game. So yeah, I think this just shows that this is how she would have looked at one point in the game's development before her appearance was totally changed. So yeah, I mean, in the picture up there, she's wearing a hat, she's wearing different clothes. Pretty sure there's actually a pet, or maybe one of your girlfriends, that does actually look quite a lot like that. So yeah, maybe that design was reused for something else. And here we are back at the driving school. So yeah, these aren't in any particular order, to be honest. So that's why I'm kind of flitting around between different parts of the city. But yeah, on the wall of the driving school, we can see this map, which is actually a pre-release map of San Fierro, or at least the top of San Fierro. Now, it does have like quite a few differences, I think, but I'll just pick a couple out just for the sake of this video. So if you look in the north of the map around the centre, and the beta map, it has it's still a grassy area, but it has almost what looks like loads of trees dotted around, and you can see it's just to the right of the bridge going towards Bayside, by the way. Yeah, you can see on the final game that there were a couple of roads added in that section, and yeah, generally it doesn't have all those dots that I assume are trees. And also on the left side of the map, the beach looks to be bigger. And then in the south of the map, again, you can see more grassy areas and fewer roads. So yeah, I'm sure if you did study this map for a long time, you'd probably see loads more little differences. But yeah, I don't really know why they chose to use a pre-release map of San Fierro for the driving school. It was probably just something that was done during development. And then as the real life map carried on changing over development, they just never really remembered to go back and change this screenshot from the inside of the driving school. Okay, just around the corner from the driving school, we have Zero's RC shop. Now, what's interesting here is that you can see loads of boxes for model cars that are on the shelves, but those boxes actually use pre-release renders of some of the vehicles. So you can see the Turismo there, and the interesting thing here is the name. It's spelt with an O, so it's like Turismo. But in the final game, the car's name was just Turismo. Well, basically like Gran Turismo, really. Can't really think of a better comparison. And then there's also the Jester, which is called the Jester Crossflow on the box here. So maybe that was a pre-release name that was changed during development. And we also have one more vehicle that is above these two as well, and that is the Hydra. As far as I can see, and I haven't looked too closely, it does appear to be the same as it is in the final game. Okay, let's have a look behind the counter now where we can see some more. So we can see the SWAT, or at least that's its final name. The name on the box here is SWAT Van 92, indicating that it was probably once called the SWAT Van, and its name was changed to just the SWAT. Over the other side of the room here, you can also see, I think, a submarine called the SS Liberty. Not that that's a drivable vehicle in the game, but yeah, I just thought it was an interesting one to point out as well. And then I think there's one more place in the shop that we're going to discuss where we can see a couple more. So we can see the ZR350. Again, I think that looks pretty similar to me. I can't see anything jumping out at me. But a very interesting one is the NRG 500. Not only does it have a different sponsor on the side, but it also has like a different colour scheme. And on the box there, on the pre-release render, it actually has number 1 on it. Whereas in the final game, it was changed to having number 46, which is of course a reference to Valentino Rossi in real life. So outside the shop, we can see 2 more pre-release renders of vehicles. The one on the right is the Windsor, we've already discussed that, and then we have the, I always forget the name of this, is it the FCR 900, the motorbike? Now, I won't dwell on this for too long because we can get a better look at these screenshots right now, in fact, because we are back. As I mentioned, these aren't in any particular order, but we are now back in CJ's house, and there are some magazines on the side here, and one of them has that same motorbike. Now you can see, again, it doesn't look too different. There are a couple of minor differences around, but I think the more interesting thing is potentially the Bullet, which is obviously the car on the magazine next to it. Now, again, there's no huge differences here from pre-release render to final car. Like the headlights are slightly different, for example, the grille is different, and yeah, so basically there are several little things that are different, but yeah, again, it's not like a massive change, so yeah, we don't need to dwell on this for too long. Okay, let's go to the Lil Probe Inn, which was always a very famous place in San Andreas. It was always associated with UFO myths, of course. Unsurprising there. But yeah, if we go into the back room here, we can see another famous thing, which was this map. Again, this was a popular one back when San Andreas was first released, because people thought it was giving you some kind of clues to where aliens are located on the map, but of course nothing was ever found. But Another interesting thing about it is that, like the map that we saw in the driving school, this is a pre-release map, not just of San Fierro, but this time of the whole of San Andreas. So again, I won't go through everything, but one interesting thing is that the town of Bayside does not seem to exist here. So yeah, so I thought that was quite interesting. And again, yeah, it's a shame that this map isn't in better quality, because I'm sure we could pick out loads more things. But yeah, that's the one thing that really stuck out to me. And we can also see the same map at Mike Toreno's ranch, which is a lovely building, to be honest, with a really nice outlook. But yeah, so the map, yeah, it's just on this wall here. So it's almost like you're going through the entrance, you do a U-turn, and there you go. You can see the same map here. Unfortunately, it's in the same quality as it is in the little probe in. So yeah, unfortunately, it doesn't really allow us to get a better look at it or anything. But yeah, I thought I'd just mention this one as well. Okay, San Fierro once again. This time we're in Otto's Autos, where we can see some more pre-release renders of various vehicles on the wall. So here is the Infernus. Again, that's one that doesn't seem to have changed too much over the course of development. Then we've got the Bullet over here again. I think that's probably the same screenshot, albeit black and white now, as the one that was used in the magazine in CJ's house. Then if we come over here, we can see the ZR350. Again, the same pre-release render that was used in Zero's shop. And actually the wheels do look somewhat different there, just looking. And of course we have the Turismo again. Same one that we saw in Zero's shop. Now, Otto's Autos does have various floors to explore, but I did check them all out, and unfortunately I couldn't see any other renders of vehicles on the walls. So yeah, it just seems to be the same ones that are repeated over and over, unfortunately. Okay, here is a Glendale, specifically the beaten up one that you can find at various points on the map. Now, the beta left over with this vehicle is its wheels. So if you look at the wheels on the Glendale, and I've put a screenshot up there so you can see the difference. The wheels on the full Glendale, the intact Glendale, are different. So what this says to people is that the Glendale probably started out having the wheels that you can see on the beat up version here, and at some point the wheels were changed to the ones that you can see on the final version, the final intact version. But yeah, they just forgot to change the wheels on the beat up Glendale. So yeah, that's why they're different. Okay, let's talk about tattoos. So I'm in Los Santos here, and obviously I'm in the tattoo shop, and we need to discuss one tattoo in particular, and it's one that you can put on your back. So yeah, if we just go to back here, we can see this Grove Street tattoo, but it doesn't say just Grove Street, it says Orange Grove Street Families, which is interesting. Now, if you didn't know, that's what the Grove Street Families were originally called during the development of GTA San Andreas. So they weren't always going to be called the Grove Street Families, they were going to be called the Orange Grove Street Families. So yeah, that was the original name. So obviously this tattoo is a throwback to a previous time in development when the Grove Street Families had that different name. And for whatever reason, probably just an oversight, the game developers never thought to change this tattoo. And you can also find a reference to this elsewhere too. So at numerous places on the map, you can see this tag here which says OGF. Now, of course, this too stands for Orange Grove Families. Again, the pre-release name for the Grove Street Families, before they were just known as Grove Street. Okay, let's head over to the town of Angel Pine. Now, across the road from Kendal, you can see these 3 trash cans here. And I've knocked one of them over there, and yeah, it's basically really easy to just knock them over. You just have to walk into them like that. So, why are we doing this? Okay, well, let's go around to the other side and have a look at what's inside them. Now, I'm playing an emulator here, so the textures are a little bit glitchy. They're like overlapping one another. But yeah, so what you can see in these trash cans here is a map of GTA Vice City. So I assume this is meant to be an Easter egg, but for whatever reason, they've used a pre-release map of GTA Vice City. So if you see my Vice City beta leftovers video, the first one at least, it actually seems to be a similar map to the one that we can see at Sunshine Autos in Vice City. So yeah, I don't really know whether this was intentional or whether this was just a mistake or a leftover that they never updated. But yeah, so they used a pre-release map of Vice City, and you can see numerous differences like the size of the beach, the size of the airport, and the fact that the stadium doesn't exist. So yeah, a weird one. Okay, so we're in Las Venturas, and I want to talk about this pay and spray garage over here. So obviously you can see when you zoom into the sign, and when you're close to it, you can see that it just says pay and spray. But when you're standing far away, it actually says something completely different. So when you've got the low-res texture loaded in, as opposed to the high-res texture, it's a sign that relates to West Side Motors. And I've put an example up on screen here, so this isn't the exact sign from this location, but it's a similar sign from a different location in the game. So you can see it here. This is what the sign above pay and spray looks like in its lower poly form. See, there you go. Yeah, you can see it. Hopefully you can see it as I move far away. Obviously we are further away, and therefore it is naturally harder to see it. But yeah, so it looks like at one point in the game's development, this garage here was going to belong to West Side Motors. And at one point, for one reason or another, it was just changed to your typical pay and spray garage instead. But yeah, so you can still see the West Side Motors texture elsewhere in the game at least, but yeah, not here for some reason. Okay, we are now at Easter Basin in San Fierro. And the thing that I want to discuss is the thing that I'm positioning my crosshairs over right now. And that is on the full map as well as the mini map as well. You can see a helipad in this location. So you can see it just to the right of my crosshairs there. And yeah, we're going to exit the map and we're going to see what this location looks like in the game itself. And the answer is that there is no helipad at this location in the game. It's something that only exists in the map and doesn't have like a physical presence here in the game. So yeah, at one point in the game's development, there was going to be a helipad here. But for whatever reason, it was removed. But yeah, the game designers and developers never thought to remove it from the map. So it's still present in the game as a leftover from a previous time of development. Here's something I mentioned in a previous video. It was my San Andreas Rare Places video where we actually came here to this spot exactly. And this is a really weird one because it essentially looks like a lighthouse base, and that's because it is. You can see here in this comparison, you can see that it's actually the lighthouse base from Grand Theft Auto 3. And you can see another view of it here as well. And I have to thank Obols, I hope I'm pronouncing that right, from my Discord server for giving me these screenshots and letting me know about this comparison. So yeah, if you do want to join my Discord server, I will put a link in the video description. So yeah, some people have theorised that this might be another one of those spots on the map where you could have bought the plot and developed your own asset, but as far as we know, it's not confirmed. We don't know whether that's definitely the case. So I did put this in as a separate item in the video because we don't really know why it's here. Is it a beta leftover? Is it meant to look like this? It's just a really weird spot on the map that we don't really have an explanation for. Okay, I'm at the boat school now, which is in Bayside. And the thing that I want to discuss here is that ramp that you can see ahead of us. Now, of course, we're meant to go up and over that, but for the purpose of this video, I will not be doing that. That's because the thing that we want to look at is the writing on the side of the ramp. We can see, of course, that it says Vice City Marina. So yeah, this is a texture that was brought in from Vice City and just ended up never being updated to, say, San Andreas or something similar. So yeah, a texture that was borrowed and was never updated to match the game that it's actually in now. Okay, so at various points on the map, you can see Xoomer petrol stations, or gas stations if you're from North America. Now this is almost a beta leftover in itself because I believe at one point in the game's development, the game developers wanted you to be able to fill up your car with petrol if you were running low. But that idea was scrapped, but you can see like all these petrol stations all around the map. but I think they still add a lot to the environment, so they still serve a purpose. So yeah, that's actually not the beta leftover I was going to discuss. The fact is that Xoomer was originally going to be called Xenon. Yeah, so the chain of petrol stations was originally going to be called Xenon. And I like to the West Side Motors texture. There's this billboard here in San Fierro, and if you load the low poly texture for it, the low res texture, you can still see that it says Xenon, the original name for the petrol station. But obviously when you're up close, you can see that it changes from Xenon to Xoomer. So yeah, another case whereby the high-res texture was updated by the game's developers, but they just forgot to update the relevant low-res texture as well. So it means that we've got a window into a previous time in development, if nothing else. So there's a donut shop in Los Santos called Jim's Sticky Ring, and you can see the branding on the outside here. So it's on the big donut there, and there's also a sign at the front of the shop, which you'll see when I go down here. Now, you can't access the interior of this building, at least not by standard means, that is. But you can see the interior in the mission Burning Desire, and what's special about the interior is that it still has Rusty Brown's Ring Donuts branding and advertising inside, which is obviously a leftover from GTA Vice City. So it looks like at one point in the game's development this was going to be a Rusty Brown's Ring Donut shop, and it was updated to be Jim's Sticky Rings, but they only updated the exterior, they never updated the interior. Okay, there's this building here in San Fierro, which is an art gallery, and on it you can see this screenshot of a cop car. Now, the interesting thing about it is, I appreciate it's low res, so we can't be 100% sure of this, but it looks like it says SAPD on the side, which stands for San Andreas Police Department, when in reality in the final game, each city, so Las Venturas, San Fierro and Los Santos, each had their own police cars with their own branding, so LSPD, for example, that you can see as an example here. But funnily enough, we can still see the SAPD branding on certain vehicles in the game. So it does seem like that was the intention at one point, for the game developers to just have one central police force before it was split up into the different cities that we have now. So yeah, if you look at the police Maverick, which is something we'll check out later in the video, you can still see the SAPD branding on the helicopter, which was perhaps on every single law enforcement car, or at least every single police vehicle at one point in development. There are quite a few billboards dotted around San Andreas, particularly in Los Santos, for a company called Heat. And the interesting thing here is that they've actually used a beta model of this jogger ped, and you can see the final version of this jogger pedestrian on screen here. So yeah, you can see one thing in particular is that the shorts are white and they were changed to black, and his top is black when in the final game it had grey stripes on. So yeah, this was a case whereby the game's developers had a beta version of this pedestrian in this billboard, and although they changed the actual pedestrian, the billboard was never updated. And there's actually another case of that as well, not too far away from where we just were in Los Santos, and that is this Zip billboard as well, which does contain 2 more beta pedestrians. Now, the lady on the right doesn't look too different. There are some minor differences. For example, in the final game, her shoes have straps on, whereas on the billboard there, they don't. But of course, the big difference is the lady on the left. Her design was changed quite dramatically. So in the final game, she's got short hair, she's got a different colour suit, same colour top though, and she doesn't have that gold choke around her neck anymore. And I think she's got different shoes as well. So yeah, this was more than likely the same ped. But yeah, originally she had a pretty different design. And like the last billboard we saw, even though the pedestrian was updated in the game, this billboard was never updated to match the pedestrian's updated appearance. Okay, we're back in San Fierro now, where you can see this big factory by the name of Shady Industries. Now the interesting thing here is that on the PC port of the game, its name was changed to Solarin Industries. However, You can also see the Shady Industries branding on the Benson. And funnily enough, or even though the name of the factory was changed in the PC version, the name of the factory on the Benson was never updated, so it still says Shady Industries. But yeah, an odd one really. It's quite interesting because even though it's not something that was changed in the final version of the PlayStation 2 version of the game, the fact that it was changed so quickly in one of the first ports of the game that was ever released does say that perhaps they never intended to release the PS2 version with this branding in it. And here we are back in Los Santos again. I did say that all these clips weren't in any particular order. Yeah, here we are at Ammu-Nation, and obviously there's a massive gun on the outside of the building there. And to be specific, this weapon is the Colt Python. Now, what's interesting about this weapon is that it was present in the predecessor, GTA Vice City. So yeah, it was quite a prominent weapon in that game. However, it does not exist in GTA San Andreas, although it still exists in Liberty City stories and I think Vice City stories as well. But essentially, yeah, it's present in Vice City, but it was never carried over to GTA San Andreas. So this texture that they've used for the Ammu-Nation building is a beta leftover, perhaps from a time when they were intending to have the Colt Python in the game. But ultimately it was likely replaced by the Desert Eagle, but this texture still remains. Here we are at the airport again in Los Santos, but yeah, we're not going to be discussing an aeroplane, we're actually discussing the forklift. And the reason behind that is the wheels again, believe it or not. So just like the Glendale, the forklift uses a set of leftover wheels. And these wheels are originally from Grand Theft Auto 3. I think they also found their way into the beta version of Vice City, the one that was released, I think, early last year. But yeah, so these wheels have been in GTA since Grand Theft Auto 3. But the forklift, I believe, is the only vehicle in San Andreas to have these, which probably means that they were likely used as a placeholder. But for whatever reason, they were never replaced by a set of wheels that is actually in the game and is used by other cars. Okay, time to discuss another billboard, and it's this one, again in Los Santos, and it's for the Elegance, which is a brand new car in this game. Two interesting things to note here. The first is the car itself, which has a slightly different design. Again, this is a pre-release render of a vehicle, so the grille at the front looks somewhat different, and it's also got leftover wheels from GTA Vice City. But it's also the name that's of interest to us. On the billboard there, it's called the Elegance, when in the final game, its name was changed to the Elegant. So not a huge difference, but different nonetheless. Something that's also interesting is at the bottom right, it has the name Willard. So I don't know whether that was originally supposed to be the manufacturer's name and the Elegance was the vehicle's name. But in the final version of GTA San Andreas, the Willard became a completely separate vehicle. Alright, time for us to discuss the Xoomer petrol stations again, specifically though, this one in Las Venturas. So what's interesting about this? Well, the first random thing I noticed, and this isn't the beta leftover, is that the spinning X up here is clipping through the power lines. Why not? But yeah, as I mentioned, that's not what we're here to discuss. It's these wheels that are on top of this little roof here. And yeah, this is another texture that was left over from Grand Theft Auto Vice. It was never updated with one of the final wheel textures that you actually see on some of the vehicles in the game. Okay, let's discuss the Enforcer. Now, I'm here in Los Santos, and therefore, what you would expect to see on a police vehicle in Los Santos is the LSPD, and that's exactly what you can see. You can see it on the front bumper, and you can also see it on the back doors here. There you go. It says LSPD. Now, what happens if you steal an Enforcer in one of the other cities, so San Fierro or Las Venturas? Well, I did exactly that. I stole an Enforcer so we could find out. And what does it say? Well, it says LSPD once more. Now, of course, we've seen from the police cars in the game that each city, Los Santos, San Fierro, Las Venturas, has its own police branding, so LSPD, SFPD and LVPD, but they never remembered to do that. The developers never did that with the Enforcer. They all just say LSPD. So yeah, unfortunately this is a leftover. As I say, the game developers, they never thought to update this. And last of all, as I mentioned earlier, we were going to be discussing the police Maverick in this game. So yeah, if you look at the helicopter close up or we zoom in with a sniper rifle, we can see that it says SAPD. However, let's look at the low-res texture once more. If we move away from it, we can see that the SAPD texture disappears. But that's only when you're looking at the right side of the helicopter. If you look at it from the left side, something completely different happens. So here we go, we're at the left side now. Obviously, if we zoom in again, we can see that it says SAPD, so San Andreas Police Department. And if we move further back, so the low-res texture loads in, we can see that it changes to LVPD. So a bit of a backwards version of the cop cars, really. As we've seen in the video, the cop cars potentially went from saying SAPD to having their own individual police department names in each city. It looks like the police helicopter was originally going to be separated into LVPD, SFPD and LSPD, but in the end just became the SAPD in general. So yeah, another case where one of the low-res textures just gets left in accidentally, as a bit of a callback to a previous time in the game's development. In Big Smoke's crack den, which you only get access to during the main storyline, you can see a statue of Big Smoke, but the interesting thing here that he is actually in his beta form here. So he's wearing white. Obviously in the final game, he wears green, he wears the colours of Grove Street. But yeah, at one point in time during the game's development, he would have worn white. And this statue is a leftover, therefore. It's a leftover from a time when Big Smoke's appearance was quite different. So let's discuss the Barrio Los Aztecas graffiti. Now the interesting thing about this is its colour. The Barrio Los Aztecas graffiti is orange, which always kind of mystified players a little bit because as you can see there, we can see the gang. Unfortunately, we have to attract their attention. We can see that they're wearing green and white mainly, and also black. So why is the graffiti tag orange? Well, it's theorised by players that at one point in the game's development, the Barrio Los Aztecas would have worn orange. That would have been their gang colours. But for whatever reason, again, we don't know for sure, but it looks like it was changed during development. So their clothes were changed from orange to white and either light blue or light green, whatever you want to call it. Turquoise, maybe, I guess. But yeah, the game designers never thought to update the colour of the graffiti. So yeah, it was always left as orange. And that was the last thing in the video today. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video about 30 beta leftovers in GTA San Andreas. Hopefully I will see you again for another video very soon.